For anyone that follows me on the channel already, you'll know that I've had the VivoBiomes for a short while now. So today I'm going to share with you my first impressions and a bit of a short-term review of these shoes. Let's get into it. Now, I probably should have put a bit of a warning at the beginning to wear sunglasses because these things are so gosh darn bright. But for anyone that doesn't actually know what VivoBiomes are, they are a 3D printed, that's right, 3D printed shoe with only 3 components. So you've got the sole, you've got the upper, and then you've got the lace. Now, the goal of the VivoBiome project ultimately is to make a fully circular system in regards to footwear, so nothing ends up in landfill. Now, they're not quite there yet. This whole program is very much in its infancy. We are quite literally at the moment testing these things out. That's why you can't buy them. There's a limited number of people that have actually got these shoes. I'm fortunate enough to be one of those people. Now, I did pay to be part of what they call the VivoBiome Pioneer program. So I've paid some money to get involved with this. What I'll end up with is a total of 3 pairs of these shoes. So that was how I justified it in my own head. But the main thing here for me anyway is, or the most important thing for me is that I get to not only just get more shoes, but also actually get to have some sort of input in what is potentially the future of footwear. So you may be wondering, if these are 3D printed, what are they made out of? They're made from a 3D printed TPU outsole. We've then got a 3D knitted upper made of polyester. Now, this whole shoe really does feel like putting a sock on. It's incredibly flexible and lightweight, as you'd expect from a Vivo barefoot shoe, but also there's literally only 3 components. These things are, it's like, there's honestly like nothing to it. One interesting comparison actually from these is if you've got a pair of the Primus Light Knit, they're kind of similar, I would say, very similar in the fact that the Primus Light Knit has that sock snug feel. Couldn't remember the word snug on my previous video, but these have a great snug feel, which I would say translates to this VivoBiome. So if you've had the Primus Light Knit, you understand that sock-like feel, but just talking about the actual fit of these things. So I made some notes, but my first impressions of these when I got them on is I put them on and they definitely fit. There's much more than just like, what is the perfect fit, which is, you know, there's kind of no such thing, right? Because we all have a unique desire for what that fit should be. I personally actually quite like, I want an extremely contradicting fit. I want something super snug, but it feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Makes no sense. I understand that. These actually kind of, the sock really kind of nails that, I would say. So the fit is very snug, but also I would say finds that balance of looseness. One thing I would also say is, and just going off of other people's first impressions when they got theirs, these things immediately probably felt a little bit tighter, more snug than they end up being long term, because once you've worn them a while, you know, they're flexing, they're bending, they're twisting, all that stuff. So they do tend to loosen up. Just on first impressions, again, of sort of the feel of these shoes as well. So the sock, as I just said, loosened up over time. This sole, which is a bit grubby now because I've tried them day to day, worked out in them, everything like that, it feels kind of firm and hard because I guess it's kind of a plastic, right? It's been printed out. You can see when you look at the sides of this, like the layers in it, which is kind of cool. It weirdly has this like dusty look to it, which you can definitely see on the sides, which you get used to. It is what it is. Just looks kind of odd when you first see it, but it's kind of fascinating as well to think that this thing's been 3D printed. But it's a harder sole. So where have I put my shoe? So pulling up the Primus Light again, it's a rubber sole. I've got an insole in this as well, so it's a little bit more cushioned, but this feels just generally softer as a material. Whereas this, My opinion changes on these all the time, but it's definitely firmer. It's definitely firmer. It's not as, in my head it was like, this is solid plastic, this is rubber, but it's not as dramatic as that, but it's definitely different because I suppose this is slightly thinner as well. So this is kind of firm. And remember, there's only 3 pieces to this. There isn't an insole either. So I've just been wearing these with socks on, but it's just been me, the sock, which is a single piece, by the way, if you can see inside there, the sock, and then the outsole to the ground. But it has been nice because even though it is still pretty thin, the firmness has meant that things like stones and everything like that don't translate straight through. So you're not getting that sharp pain if you catch a stone, unlike you can with like a Primus Light or something. So the sole took a bit of getting used to, but I also think as well, it probably softened up a little bit. Again, it's really hard to sort of say if it truly has softened up or whether you just kind of get used to it. But I think the shoe overall has certainly grown on me. So the other thing as well is, if you can see, it might be better that way, these wings here, it's on the side. So you got like the inside and the outside. It naturally, you see how that, where is it? There we go. See how that is kind of pushing in. It naturally wants to kind of just like sit flat, well, not flat, but it naturally wants to kind of press over, which you would think the outside is pressing in, but interestingly enough, the inside is actually pretty upright. But as I was wearing them, you do feel pressure from where that hits on the inside of your feet. So you feel it on your sort of your ankles. It's not as bad when you're wearing socks, but I think it just rubs a little bit. But again, as with the other things on this shoe, it seems to have, I don't know if my tolerance has got higher to it and I've just maybe built a bit of a callus or something, but I've not got any like red marks anymore. They don't feel as uncomfortable as they uncomfortable in air quotes, as they did when I first got them. They've definitely loosened up a little bit more because, like I say, this is, you know, this is a single 3D printed kind of sole that is going to be stiff until you've moved it about. You know, you get a ruler, you move it a load of times, it softens up and you can snap it, right? So, I mean, hopefully these don't snap, but the more something moves around, the more flexible it will hopefully become. I'm definitely not someone that's saying you need to break a shoe in, because I definitely don't think you should break any shoes in. You should be able to put a shoe on and it feels super comfortable. That being said, these fitted and they are comfortable, but they seem to have got more comfortable over time. The one thing I will say that is a negative, and a definitive negative that won't get better over time on this particular pair just through wearing them, is, and I'm not sure if this is like a manufacturing defect, a printing error, or just the nature of it, but, and I'll try and show you this as best I can, but see this edge on the outside? So this has got the outside bit on which covers sort of the side of your foot. It's actually a nice spot because when you're moving sideways, you can tend to, weirdly, I've banged that part of my foot on things quite a lot recently wearing these. I don't know if I've just noticed it more, but that's actually a perfect spot to protect your foot. So it's actually really great. If you can see the angle of it, it naturally curves in, and not that you're gonna be able to do this, but when you put your hand inside and feel it, the left one feels great, feels like a nice arc that goes with the curve of my foot. However, on the right shoe, if you feel inside it, that is definitely more over and presses in to the top sort of side of my foot. So it is quite firm, so it does press in. So when I've been wearing these for a long period of time and your feet get hot and they swell up a little bit, you know, the spaces, your feet get bigger, so the space gets smaller internally. These are a pretty close fit to the size of my feet, so that then becomes more apparent. And then the final point in regards to the overall fit, which is kind of the whole point that I got involved with this and wanted to get involved with this, is because if you don't already know, I'm a size UK 14, which is literally the biggest shoe that Vivo Barefoot do. I had my feet scanned, I'll show that on the screen. Turns out one foot is also bigger than the other. My feet are very long, so I wanted to get involved to see if I can be the spokesperson for people that are on that upper end of the spectrum when it comes to the size of your feet. I know that a 14 isn't even the biggest. There's people out there with 15, 16 plus. But right now, again, with this program as well, is they're focusing on just the size range that they do, because otherwise, you know, as soon as you start going 15 and above, you're then all of a sudden doing really bespoke stuff. They're already doing bespoke fits now. I think it's, I understand it's going to add more of a complexity. So luckily enough, I was able to fit in quite literally. But yeah, hopefully in the future, you know, in the future, if these are actual thing, it means that there is no size limit. You can just get shoes printed to order. But with that being said, the length, Primus Light 14, VivoBiome 14, and we're talking like what, tiny amount here. You can see that? Maybe if I move my head out of the way. So a smidgen shorter in the length. However, in the Primus Light, there's probably a little bit of toe room, not headroom, toe room. But these are certainly a little bit wider than something like the Primus Light. Now, when it comes to the actual fitting of these shoes, someone mentioned it on a short that I did that they're actually not currently bespoke right now, and that is correct. So the sizes of, or the fits of the sizes of these shoes is not truly bespoke. It's based on a data set of hundreds of thousands of foot scans, I believe it is. And they're clearly just trying to find sort of good, better, best maybe. So what we've actually received right now is I think the words that were used were a blind fit test. So again, when we were talking about fit preference as well, that kind of comes into it, right? Someone might want, like myself, way more space than someone else. Someone might want it be bang on to their feet. So again, this is a blind test, so we don't know which variant we have, but there are multiple length and width variants of those sizes. So say if you're a 10 or a 14 like I am, there might be a average wide, extra wide fit, and then a to measure, slightly longer, extra long, or shorter, who knows. You've got to think that they are trying to get feedback from people about something that is sort of subjective. And when it comes to my opinion on these, I initially gave them the feedback that they are, if anything, they are slightly shorter in length, which I noticed. And what happens is when you move forward, say you're doing like a lunge or something like that, your foot can shift a little bit as they do in all shoes. Again, that's why I go for that tighter part around the ankle to try and stop that movement within a shoe. But I notice that my toes do somewhat touch the tips sometimes, not all the time. The sock nature of this really keeps the shoe in place most of the time. It's only on those extreme forward movements that you notice the foot shift. Beyond those very odd occasions where I get that serious forward momentum and I have to plant my foot down and the foot moves, it's not like my foot's slipping around and it's not banging all the time. And the more that I've lived with these and worn them and enjoyed them, they are really growing on me. So whatever the fit actually is here, so I don't know if they've given me extra wide, extra long, but it really is, I think it's gone a bit, I think they've given me a bit wider, and that I really notice, and it feels comfortable. So it means that when your feet do get hot, which mine tend to, and then they swell up because I'm mid-30s now apparently, and that's what happens when I'm walking around for a long period of time, they don't feel really constrained on my feet. So first impressions, they were different because material was really interesting, got this weird dusty look, hard sole on it, which, you know, has its own implications as well. So it feels like they could lose grip on harder surfaces in the wet, for example, but that seems to also be changing as the sole sort of wears away as well. So again, really difficult to sort of judge that in the short term. We've had these, what, a few months now. They seem to be improving, so really interesting things that are happening there. So potentially we'll come back with a longer term review on these. But first impressions, they were different. They feel really nice on foot just in general. The color's loud as hell. Hopefully I'll get a black pair or something further down the line. But they seem to be just kind of an ideal fit. And then after wearing them and living with them for a little bit longer, is they really are truly growing on me. The fit I am beginning to appreciate more and more and more. One thing I do feel, because they reduced the length on mine, I think my other toes hit this bit. So I've got space for the big toe most of the time. When I spread my toes out, I can touch this side with them. So I don't know if that's like a sizing thing or if the fit needs to almost come a little bit squarer before curving off. But then you end up with a rectangular looking shoe at that point, and I don't know, maybe I'm being picky because again, it's not something that happens all the time.
Harrison here from the future. One thing that actually came in just as I finished recording was a follow-up from the Vivo team, actually getting our feedback and input on what changes we'd like on the next version, so the V2 of these shoes. So we're just in the process of feeding back those changes and tweaks. They've taken our feedback into account based on the size that they provided us. So you get to see what that is. I'll show you that. And then they're showing the changes to the fit that they will implement in V2. We then have the option of choosing whether the changes that they recommend are good enough or they're what we want, or we can increase or decrease or change just the sizing and fit in general. Again, this is all about understanding our fit preference, what's working, what's not working, but also what is that perfect fit for us. So this is a really exciting journey to be on. I'm excited for the next steps. There will be another video following up as soon as I get that V2 pair. Now, back to Harry from the past.
So there we have it, guys. That is my first impressions and a little bit of a short-term review of the VivoBiomes. Apologies if my train of thought has been a little bit frantic. We've just recently had our second baby, so it's been a bit crazy at the house, but getting back into the rhythm of it now. Life is returning back to somewhat normal for us. So if you're interested in seeing the full journey of these VivoBiomes, I've still got 2 more pairs left for them to add some feedback and iterate on this product. I'm really excited to see what they come up with and just see what little changes they might make. I'm also going to hopefully get a little bit less of a loud color, maybe a black, maybe even just another green. I seem to like green shoes. If you like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you do have any questions about the Pioneer program, I could have shared that, but I assume you probably just want to hear about the shoes, right? If you do have any questions, please just put that in the comments and I will gladly answer those. And if you're really excited to see what happens next, don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the very next video. Cheers.